Yoga is obviously tremendously valuable for the human body, and you can see where we don't call Jiu-Jitsu murder yoga for nothing, right? It's very much applicable and comparable to in a lot of ways to yoga, with the positions we use and the dexterity that sometimes is required. So I really think it's awesome what you've done through yoga to help people stay on the mats as long as they can, to be one of those survivors that becomes the respected guy in the room. So how did that happen? How did you first get into yoga?
I just have to drop a testimonial that someone sent me yesterday, a good friend from England. He's been training Jiu-Jitsu for 15 years, never been injured once. And he started doing yoga for BJJ when he was a purple belt. And he competes and he does super fights. And he didn't get injured yet. Can you imagine that?
That's amazing.
Have you heard that story before? No, it's
almost unheard of. Yeah, I'm sitting here recovering from a torn MCL, feeling really jealous right now.
Yeah. But there are so many layers. I wish the podcast was 4 hours and that everybody would listen for 4 hours, because there's so much nuance to this. Because it's not like, I can talk about this a little bit later, but you can't be stiff. There is no stiff muscle. Just feel your biceps right now. There is no stiffness in it. It's soft and jelly. And when someone give you anesthesia, when they make a surgery on you, they have to be careful not to dislocate your hips when you're moving your leg out of the way for the surgery. Our muscles, they are not stiff. We feel stiff, and we make ourselves stiff by the way we hold ourselves, and especially posture. Like if you have a stiff neck and if you have muscle knots back there, it's probably not even muscle knots. It's the fascia that is just crunched up, and you can release that with your mind. Like someone can come and put a healing hand on you, and suddenly you feel like you're melting. You can do that yourself by breathing and being present in your body. But this just sounds like, new age woo woo woo. But it's because you're white belts and I'm a black belt at it. Like you have no clue. You just have to do what I tell you, like do A, B, C, D, and just do that. And then, we can talk about more things later. But I really feel when I talk about yoga and when I teach yoga to Jiu-Jitsu people, even black belts, I feel like a Jiu-Jitsu black belt that comes to a new country where Jiu-Jitsu haven't been introduced, and everybody's doing Taekwondo and are Taekwondo blue belts. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? This is not, like, if you want to fight, yeah, we fight. This is Taekwondo. Yeah, maybe it's fun, but it's not going to work when we fight. And then I kick everybody's ass. And that's how I feel with the yoga, that, I'm so way ahead of the game, even though, I'm average at yoga. If you compare me to any yogi out there, my practice is shit. But, I'm still 100 times better than everybody in Jiu-Jitsu, because every day you're breaking yourself down, which is part of good training. You have to break your body down. But then what? Yeah. Break it down even more. Every day puhada, every day blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And you don't care about sleep quality. You don't care about your posture while you're sitting in a car. You don't care about drinking water instead of Gatorade. You don't care about that big beef you're having Friday. Like these things, they are stopping the recovery. Some people, I can summarize it like this. Studies have been made that Olympic athletes, when they have their absolute peak, 2 weeks after the Olympics.
Interesting. Why do they think that is?
Because they are all overtrained. They train too much and they don't focus enough on building their body up again. They just more. The day before Olympics, they're training really hard. Because why? Because they didn't train enough? No, because they're fucking nervous, because they didn't focus on the mental aspect enough. And some people take 2 weeks off before the Olympics, and they probably do really well. They manage to leave it. So if you train 5 times a week, you're not going to get 100% better by training 10 times a week. But if you did yoga for 10 minutes every day, and if you did an ice bath every week, and if you walked in nature with your dog and, just were, letting the stress go, your arm bars would be much better. It is complex and it is nuanced, but it's not complicated at all. It's very, as soon as you see something like in yourself and you are honest about it and you manage to bypass the ego and actually see what's there, it is really simple. It's almost so simple that nobody believes it when you say it with words, because it has to be experienced.
That is really fascinating, man. Sebastian, there's something you said there. Speaking of nuances, there was something you said there a second ago that I really want to zoom in on, if you don't mind. It was the idea of being loose and limber and not being stiff, and how ultimately that's what can keep you safe. It reminds me very much of I don't know if you remember the fight where Fedor Emelianenko fought Kevin Randleman in Pride back in the day, and Randleman suplexed him, and Fedor landed directly on his head. I thought for sure as he was coming down that he's going to be paralyzed. That's it. That Fedor's career is over.
Yeah.
And he was completely like jelly and loose as he landed, and he reverses position and wins with a Kimura. And of course, it was one of the most mind-blowing things that I'd ever seen, that a lot of people had seen in MMA.
Yeah.
And they talked to Fedor about it afterwards. They were like, how in the world did you not, number one, get paralyzed, number two, come back from that? And he explained, I've been thrown so many times and I've landed so many times that I've learned the mistake is to be stiff and tight, thinking you're going to protect your structure with your tight muscles. If you're loose and just accept it and kind of hit the ground like water, you don't get injured as much. So if you don't mind, can we expand on this a little bit? Like, what have you found? You mentioned it's mostly mental. It's a mental thing, because when you're relaxed, you're naturally not stiff. What's the best way for people to overcome stiffness in that sense, of stiffness of thinking they're helping protect themselves from an injury?
I want to digress a little bit. Not digress, but take Fedor's example, which philosophy he attained that from is Taoism. Taoism is, they have a story in Tao Te Ching about a drunk man falling off his cart and like going down a hill. He just falls off, and when he just stands up and keep on being drunk and walks home. And we can all, it's just a story, but why didn't he break his neck? Because physics. If it stiffens up, then something will break. And I almost thought about that when you said that that specific example with Fedor. He's landing on between his shoulder blades into a yoga pose with Kevin Randleman from 2 meters and just landing on top of him. Obviously, he was extremely physically prepared to do it, but I could also tell that someone has done that to him before. So. Yeah, but how to develop it?
Yeah.
Well,
like, how could that be applied by like everyday people? That concept of staying loose and not being stiff in moments where you think you might be landing poorly or getting hurt.
Doing yoga.
Cool.
Yeah, that's yoga is the starting point. You can do many other things to make you relax: massage, ice bath, sauna, sleeping on a good mattress, But yoga teaches you to do it like a massage doesn't really teach you to be loose in jiu-jitsu. But yoga is so similar it's basically solo jiu-jitsu. Like if you go to the academy and nobody shows up because you came too early, it was the wrong day, the gym was closed, and then you're just on the mat, it feels kind of, I need someone to kick my ass for me to feel. But you can get maybe 70% of that feeling yourself by doing a yoga flow instead of doing a jiu-jitsu flow. Like flow rolling, when we're not tapping each other, we're just letting the position go and keep going on. That feels amazing, and you can extract that amazing feeling and inject it into your solo practice, which is a yoga practice that is not just any type of yoga. Because let's get this out of the way. Yoga is as big of a concept as martial arts. So you never say, let's go and train some martial arts and you can do taekwondo and I do boxing. It doesn't work. It's completely separate things. So when I say yoga, it's the type of yoga I have found to be most effective for jiu-jitsu. It's not any type of yoga. Yeah, but you can, when you do a 25-30 minute warm up for jiu-jitsu, you can make that be so similar to jiu-jitsu that, true story, I hear people say, I started yoga for BJ the same day I started jiu-jitsu. And after 3 months, I was by far the most advanced student in my 25-person class. Because I learned the right arm and the left leg, and I learned this. And then all these complicated movements that we would do in yoga, jiu-jitsu is murder yoga. You get put in all these positions. And it's not that you know it with your mind, because it takes years to understand and know things like consciously, but your muscle memory doesn't need consciousness. It's just reacting by instinct. And if you do some spinal rolls and some side planks and stuff, and then you go into sparring and then you put your hand out to base, that shoulder is going to be in place. It's not going to be up here because you learned to protract your shoulder blade when you're basing. So suddenly you feel 6 times stronger in your base, and he's not going to sweep you. And all these things happens automatically. You don't have to learn it. You just do it, and then you do it again when you do jiu-jitsu.